The floods have left an extensive trail of damage in KwaZulu-Natal, raising concerns over food security. Although the province is not a leading producer of food domestically, it plays a critical role in connecting South Africa's agriculture to the world through the Durban port. For more on the impact of the floods on the farming sector, we're joined by Agriculture Minister Thoko Didiza. Minister Didiza, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Firstly, a general assessment of what you found the impact of these floods have been on the sector.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and your viewers this evening. Indeed, our assessment today indicated the severe impact that has been made on infrastructure, in particularly on-farm and off-farm infrastructure, particularly access roads that get into the farms, the bridges that are connecting farmers to the main line in terms of logistics, but also the soil nutrients that have been lost as a result of soil erosion that has happened in a number of areas. I want to say, Kathy, that one of the things that we are concerned about is how do we quickly enable farmers to be able to move their goods, that particularly those that have been harvested, to markets. And how do we ensure that those areas that are cut off at the moment are actually connected in order to get inputs in and also produce out of farms?
The issue of goods that have already been harvested, number one, it becomes a logistic issue because it's about can these goods reach their destinations in time, and what happens in the interim while they are perhaps still on location at the farms or even at the Durban port, especially those that are being exported.
With regards to export, I must say that the Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister Pravin Gordhan, together with Transnet led by Portia Derby, has really done a marvelous work to make sure that they do fix what needed to be fixed in order to allow for access in and outside the port and clearing of the debris, which actually you can see visibly from the N3 where trucks are already moving up and down, taking the things to the port and out of the port. So the port, as we speak, is operational. For the agricultural season, in particular for citrus, we are very encouraged that we will have minimal disruptions, if any, for the movement of citrus from inland into the ports. One of the concerns, though, is with regards to crops that are within the province. If you look at the sugar situation, for instance, 6 of the mills in this province, sugar mills, have actually been affected. 5 of those are back into operation, while one in Glendor, in Stenga, will take about 4 months to really become fully operational. Some of the sugarcane which has already been harvested, the challenge in terms of the haulage and logistics to move it from farms to the mills in areas where there has been washed away bridges as well as roads cut off, that's where we have got a challenge that we need to fix as of immediate.
Minister Didiza, just staying with the sugarcane industry, looking at some of the losses that they say their members have suffered, that figure currently sitting at 222.9 million rand. And, you know, that goes across the processing chain, so from farm, like you're saying, right through up to how it's processed at the mills. It's a significant loss. Does this mean that we're going to see an impact on the sugar price?
I don't think so. Let's give ourselves maybe another 2 weeks to make a better assessment. Because even the 221 million that you are referring to, it's actually not the composite number. It actually represents the sugarcane growers who are farming commercially. The smallholders, the figure stands at about 71 million, which already tells you that it's almost close to 300 million. But again, as we were engaging with farmers' organizations, including the Sugar Association and SAFTA and millers, they indicated to us that there are some areas that are still inaccessible, and therefore they may not say with certainty that's the figure of the losses that they've suffered. Some of the cane is actually waterlogged. until it's a bit drier, we are not able to make an assessment of how much devastation is there. So we are working, it's work in progress. We've set up a steering committee that brings in national government, Department of Agriculture, together with the province and the farmers' organization to look at the immediate interventions that we need to make in the sector, both those who are on crop, horticulture, macadamia, and livestock. Secondly, we need to make sure that we look at the medium term, particularly on the replanting, to make sure that we do not lose our agricultural calendar in an instance.
Minister Didiza, when we look at the impact of these floods again, for those farmers that had crops in the ground, many of them, of course, are now facing extensive soil erosion. A lot of these rains have affected the root of those plants, so there's nothing to salvage effectively. They have to start from scratch. How are they going to be supported?
Well, we are part of the work of that steering committee is to really look at how we assist in building, soil nutrients on the soils that are remaining, some of which will actually means doing liming to actually deal with the issues of acidity that is already there, and how we actually assist in bringing in some of your inputs in terms of chemicals that can improve your soil nutrients. So these are the things that I said are the immediate interventions that we need to make in the agricultural sector, working together with the industry, obviously.
How soon do you think that this assistance will be able to trickle down to individual farmers? And I wonder if at all there's been work done by the department to look at the situation that is also part of this flooding and has been affected by this flooding in the Eastern Cape, and if there's going to be support there too.
There will be support. You noted that a cabinet actually on Sunday had a meeting where a decision was taken to actually declare a national disaster, precisely because of appreciation that the flooding has not only impacted KwaZulu-Natal alone, but the OR Tambo region in the Eastern Cape. There may be actually other areas in other provinces that might have suffered some of the impact. As we know that over the weekend in areas such as Limpopo, you have had heavy rains. We will hear from the MECs as to whether or not there is any intervention that is required in that regard. One of the advantages in the agricultural sector is the dynamic relationship between farmers' organization and agribusinesses with the departments of agriculture, both nationally and provincially. That enables us, both in terms of communication with the farmers, to be very swift, but also in determining, the damage, where we actually get data from this organization because of the extensive network with their members. But what was important today is that in our meeting with farmers' organization and agribusinesses, we also had the labor tenants as well as farm dwellers and farm workers, because they are a critical component in the agricultural sector that have also been affected. And we have agreed in this committee there will be part so that we also address the specific needs of infrastructure, particularly housing, in those farms where farm workers have been affected and impacted negatively, both in terms of their social needs, in order to be able to work effectively in those farms.
Looking at KwaZulu-Natal generally as a province, it's one of the leading producers of food domestically. And, we look at things like some of the dairy that they produce, or even the poultry that they produce, and there are concerns about how this may likely affect those individual sectors going forward. Your view, or is it the same as it is with the sugar producers, that we should just wait and see?
Well, let me say that looking at the poultry industry, yes, there has been impact, but not as extensive as you would see in other subsectors. But also our advantage is that poultry production, it's actually spread over the country. KwaZulu-Natal doesn't have a dominance in terms of poultry production, and therefore one doesn't see an insecurity in terms of poultry nutrition in the country as a result. But we are doing everything that we could to make sure that those farmers who are in the poultry industry, particularly on the broilers and layers, who might have lost their birds, we count the figures and see whether they can be able to restock and be able to go back in business. Infrastructure, as I've said, it's one of those both on-farm and off-farm. On-farm infrastructure is really relating to issues of irrigation infrastructure that has been washed away. It's poultry houses and piggery houses that have been impacted upon, which we need to address immediately. And this steering committee is very critical because we will get the exact, need in terms of where we need to intervene and how many individual farmers have been impacted upon.
Agriculture Minister Thoko Didiza, let's leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much for your time.